Magandang hapon po mga kababayan. Kayo'y nakikinig dito lamang sa Radyo Migrante. Ako po si Waynes, kasama niyo sa kwentuhan at sa pagsaserbisyo sa bayan. This week, no, nasa na po tayo, episode 48 ngayong February 18, 2024. At ang mga pag-uusapan natin sa episode na ito ay around World Day of Social Justice. At umpisahan natin sa mga top news dito sa Canada at sa Pilipinas. Mapapakinggan din natin ang tulang Conflict. Isa itong tula na isinulat ng isang American, Jordan Chaney. At syempre, hindi matatapos ang ating episode kung wala ang Pinoy Tayo segment o Pinoy Talakayan at Usapan. Mapapakinggan natin ang interview with Shivangi, ang chairperson ng International League of People Struggle in Canada. Yan. So, syempre, ang topic natin, same thing, World Day of Social Justice. At, syempre, hindi rin makukumpleto ang ating episode kung wala ang latest community listing sa GTA. So, tara, simulan na natin. Para sa ating top news this week, para sa unang balita, from Minda News, Apex Mining must be held accountable, says Lumad Group. Kinondena ng isang grupo ng mga katutubo na Sabokahan Unity of Lumad Women ang Apex Mining Company dahil umano sa kanilang malinaw na pagpapabaya sa kanilang mga manggagawa at dinemanda nila ng Sabokahan na dapat ay panagutin ang kumpanya sa mga casualties ng landslide noong February 6 sa May Masara, Mindanao. Kinuwestiyon din ng Sabokahan Group kung bakit walang hinto ang mining operations ng Apex Mining Company kahit na meron ng mga iniuulat na mga mass floods at malakas na ulan sa Davao Region na ayon sa balita, nakaapekto na ng 1 million na katao. So, yung Apex Mining Company, patuloy pa rin sila 24-hour mining operations gamit ang 3 shift ng mga manggagawa nagro-rotation. Ito po ang ginagawa nila weeks bago ang landslide. So bakit nga daw hindi ito inihinto? As of this week, mayroong kabuang 71 na namatay at 41 ang nananatiling nawawala. Ang sabi ng Apex Mining, nakipag-ugnayan daw ito sa mga kinauukulang ahensya ng gobyerno para daw umano sa rescue operation na makatulong daw sila sa rescue operation na ito, no? So, kung isipin natin nabanggit din ng Sabokahan na hindi naman nakikinabang ang mga mamamayang Pilipino sa mga pagmimina nangyayari sa Pilipinas. Kasi kung sinabi nga ayon sa cited environmental concerns sa kanilang report noong 2016, ang kontribusyon ng mining industry sa Pilipinas sa GDP ay wala pang 1%. 0.79% lamang po siya. Kumpara ito sa GDP, contribution mula sa agrikultura na umaabot ng 9.65%. So, mababa ang kontribusyon ng pagmimina. Pero nakikita natin kung gaano kalakas, gaano kalaki ang consequence na ibinubuhat ng ordinaryong mamamayang Pilipino na mga manggagawa dito sa mga mining companies na ito. Para naman sa pangalawang balita, from Alter Media. Media groups write to Justice Secretary Remulla. Act to free Frenchie May and 2 human rights advocates. Ang mga grupo ng media, kabilang ang Alter Media Network, National Union of Journalists of the Philippines at College Editors Guild of the Philippines ay nagpadala ng liham kay Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla at nananawagan para sa agarang pagpapalaya ng community journalist na si Frenchie May Cumpio at ng human rights advocates na si Alexander Abinguna at Mariel Domicil. Nagpahayag din sila ng matinding pagkabahala sa matagal na pagkakakulong ng mga individual sa mga kasong may kaugnayan daw sa illegal possession of firearms and explosives at terrorism financing, Ang liham na ipinadala nila kay Justice Secretary Remulla nung ika-4 na anibersaryo ng mga pagsalakay sa lungsod ng Tacloban na ayun nga humantong dito sa pagkaaresto ng kilala natin bilang Tacloban 5. Sa liham, ibinibigyang diin nila yung pagbisita ng UN Special Rapporteur na si Irene Khan. Binisita ni Irene Khan si Cumpio, si Abinguna at si Domicil doon sa may Tacloban City kung saan sila nakakulong. At hinihimok nila sa liham, no, hinihimok nila ang mga otoridad na ibasura ang mga kaso o i-expedite ang kanilang kaso with full due process. Ayan po, dahil nga sabi nga nila, justice delayed is justice denied. Ayon nga sa Committee to Protect Journalists, no, nung kanilang 2023 prison census, si Frenchie May ang kasalukuyang ang nag-iisang mamamahayag na nakakulong sa Pilipinas. Ayun, so mga karadmig, no, sa darating na linggo, gugunitain natin ang World Social Justice Day. Kaya yan din ang tema ng ating episode today. At nung nakakaraang linggo, pinagdiriwang natin yung World Radio Day. At dito sa Radyo Migrante, matatag tayong naninindigan sa pakikiisa para ipagtanggol ang press freedom sa Pilipinas at sa buong mundo. Gaya ng sinabi ng mamamahayag na si Atom Araulo, ang pagiging critical sa pag-ulat ng media ay kailangan dahil sabi niya, no, quote, being impartial or neutral is not a core principle of journalism. The final result is never impartial nor neutral because there is only one objective truth and the truth is never neutral, unquote. Yan po ang sabi niya. Kaya naman ang mga sumusupil at nagpapatahimik sa mga nagbabalita ng katotohanan ay humahadlang sa karapatan ng bawat tao sa kalayaan ng impormasyon. At patuloy ang laban para sa malayang pamamahayag sa Pilipinas at iba't ibang sulok ng mundo. Para sa pangatlong balita, from Migrante Canada. Filipino migrants visit the picket line of striking workers of Del Monte in Oshawa, Ontario. Halos 2 linggo ang nagwelga ang mga manggagawa sa Del Monte plant, kabilang ang 12 na migranteng manggagawa dahil sa hindi makatarungang sahod, no. Ang mga manggagawa na kinakatawan ng Unifor Local 222, tumanggi sila sa isang tentative deal. Kabilang sa deal ay ang 5 cent hour pay increase. Itinataguyod ng Unifor Local 222 ang patas na sahod na $18 kada oras para sa mga empleyado. Na karamihan ay binubuo ng mga migrante na kung saan, English is their second language, no? Ayon sa Union President na si Jeff Gray, ang third-party staffing agency na Swipe Jobs na kinontrata ng Del Monte para magbigay ng mga manggagawa ay di umano'y ng biktima ng mga vulnerableng individual at hindi nagbibigay ng patas na sahod at benepisyo. Nananatiling hindi sigurado kung magkakaroon ng higit pang mga negosasyon sa pagitan ng Unifor at ng Swipe Jobs. Itinatampok ng sitwasyon ang mga challenges, no, na kinakaharap ng mga vulnerableng manggagawang migrante sa pagtiyak ng patas na sahod at kondisyon at ang patuloy na pakikibaka sa pagitan ng union at ng kumpanya. Patuloy po kayo nakikinig sa Radyo Migrante dito sa Toronto's Best Filipino Community Radio Show, Vibe 105. Natunghayan po ninyo ang mga balita. Ngayon naman, magbalik na tayo sa kasaysayan at kultura ng Pilipinas. Bringing you today's segment of Ang Ating Kasaysayan. Tara, let's learn more about our history and remind ourselves that history is not just information about the past, because history is a way for us to learn more about our culture and to get to know more about ourselves as Filipinos. Sa linggong ito, pag-uusapan natin ang Cha-Cha o Charter Change. Ang Charter Change ay tumutukoy sa proseso ng pagbabago ng probisyon na nilalaman ng saligang batas o konstitusyon ng bansa. Mahaba ang kasaysayan ng Cha-Cha at ilang presidente din ang nagsubok maghain ng Cha-Cha para baguhin ang 1987 Philippine Constitution, pero sila ay nabigo. Ang 1987 Philippine Constitution ay isinulat pagkatapos ng 1986 People Power Movement na nagpabagsak sa diktaturang Marcos Sr. Naglalaman ito ng mga probisyon na naghihigpit sa mga kapangyarihang ng batas militar ng ehekutibo at nagpapataw ng mga limitasyon sa termino para sa mga halal na opisyal. Tulad na lang ang presidente at vice-presidente ay maaari lamang maglingkod sa ilalim ng 6 na taong termino. Yan. So, tingnan natin yung ilang mga past presidents na nagsubok magpasa ng Cha-Cha. So, si Fidel V. Ramos, ang 12th President ng Pilipinas, noong 1997, nais niyang baguhin ang konstitusyon para magkaroon ng parliamentary system daw, ano? At para baguhin ang Article 7, Section 4 ng 1987 Philippine Constitution. Ano bang laman nun? Bakit gusto niyang baguhin, no? Ang laban po nito, ito po yung nagsasabi na hindi pwedeng tumakbo, no, for a re-election ng presidente. So gusto niya yung baguhin. Sinubukan niya itong ipasa, yung Chacha, sa pamamagitan ng People's Initiative, kung saan mangongolekta ng mga pirma sa mamamayan. Ayon kay Ramos, nakakolekta daw siya ng 11.5 million signatures, no? 11.5 million signatures at ipinasa niya ito sa Supreme Court. Nabigo ito, no, dahil sa sabi nga ng Supreme Court, hindi naman sapat ang People's Initiative, yung mga ganyang pirma-pirma para i-revise ang Constitution. Pang-amendment lang 'yon, no? So nabigo siya doon. Sa panahon naman ni Estrada o ERAP, ang 13th President ng Pilipinas, noong 1999, although kritiko siya ng Chacha noong si Ramos yung nagtutulak, nagsubok din siya, no, na maipasa ang Chacha noong siya na yung presidente. Ang gusto niyang gawin noon ay tanggalin daw ang mga paghihigpit, no, sa dayuhang pagmamay-ari ng negosyo. Nagpaplano daw si Erap noon na magbuo ng constituent assembly, which is another way to get Chacha approved. Nabigo ang Chacha ni Erap dahil maraming tutol dito at inilantad ng mga kritiko ang posibleng kagustuhan niya na i-extend ang term limits ng pagiging presidente niya. Noon naman sumunod, no, si Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, 14th President ng Pilipinas. Noong 2006, nakailang subok ito si Arroyo na ipasa ang Chacha nung panahon niya. Na talaga, mapilit talaga siya, no? So, ang ilan sa mga itinutulak niya noon, federalismo at liberalization ng ekonomiya ng bansa. Sinubukan niya ito through the People's Initiative, no? Yung pinag-usapan natin na mangongolekta ng pirma. Tinawag niya pa yon na sigaw ng bayan. Alam niyo kung ano sa English yun? The People's Cry. Yun yung niya, no? Sinubukan niya. Pero nabigo ito dahil ayon sa Supreme Court, it lacked merit yung People's Initiative. Sinubukan niya din na ipasa ang Chacha through Constituent Assembly, pero kulang siya sa suporta at merong mga opposition sa kanyang itinutulak. Sunod naman, no, yung kay Duterte, nais niya din i-revise ang buong 1987 Constitution para itulak ang federalismo. Maliban dito, sinabi rin ng House of Representatives na yung iba pang gusto niyang baguhin sa Constitution ay gusto niyang limitahin yung proteksyon para sa malayang pananalita at posibleng gusto niyang tanggalin ng Office of the Vice President, Office of the Ombudsman at Judicial and Bar Council. Ang paghikayat ni Duterte noon, sabi niya, low cost, no, at mabilis na resolusyon. So gusto niya yang sanang itulak sa pamamagitan ng pag-convene ng Congress as Constituent Assembly. Nabigo rin yan, no? Nabigo ang mga dating presidente sa kanilang mga pagsubok na itulak ang Chacha. Ang malakas na kalaban ng mga presidenteng ito sa pagtulak ng Chacha ay ang matinding pagtutol ng taong bayan sa Chacha. Bawat presidente ay kumaharap sa sigaw at protesta ng masang Pilipino na mulat sa katotohanang ang Chacha ay itinutulak lamang para mas yumaman ang mga politikong mula sa dinastikong angkan, mga Panginoong may lupa na nais mag-angkan ng mga lupain at mga dayuhang korporasyon na nais mangangkam ng malalaking lupain. Na gusto ring magmina ng mga mineral at mag-export ng mga likas yaman ng Pilipinas. So hindi talaga siya para sa masang Pilipino at nilalantad ng mga progresibong grupo yung totoong kulay, no? Yung totoong mukha ng Chacha. Kaya lagi itong nabibigo, ilang beses man itong subukang ipasa ng mga presidente. At ngayon, alam nating nagtutulak din si Marcos Jr. ng Chacha. Sinasabi niyang ito ay para daw tanggalin ng mga barriers, para sa magkaroon ng mas maraming foreign investment sa bansa na ang sabi niya ay ito daw yung magpapalago ng ekonomiya, magpaparami ng trabaho at industriya sa Pilipinas. Na ito daw yung sagot, no, para maiangat ang masang Pilipino sa kahirapan. At Ayan 'no, so totoo ba 'yun? Totoo bang para sa masang Pilipino ang itinutulak niyang tsa-tsa? Magandang tanong 'yan 'no, at makakausap natin ang chairperson ng, chapter dito sa Canada ng International League of People's Struggle. Ito po ay si Shivangi at makakausap natin siya patungkol sa social justice issue sa buong mundo, but also, so itong malaking social justice issue dito sa Pilipinas, specifically dito sa itinutulak na tsa-tsa ng, Marcos administration. At ayan ang ating kasaysayan. Did you learn something new about our history? Share nyo yan sa aming Facebook page. Hanapin lang ang Radyo Migrante and join us again next week para sa mas marami pang pag-aaral ng ating history. Patuloy po kayo nakikinig sa Radyo Migrante dito sa Toronto's Best Filipino Community Program, Vibe 105. At para sa susunod na segment, lumubog tayo sa ating kulturang Pilipino. Nais nyo bang makadiskubre ng mga makabuluhang kanta at tula mula sa iba't ibang musikero at makata? Ang segment na ito ay magsisilbing espasyo para sa iba't ibang pagtatanghal ng mga talento ng ating kababayang Pilipino. Para sa linggong ito, ang handog namin sa inyo ay ang tulang Conflict na isinulat ni Jordan Chaney. Ito po ay tungkol sa labor migration. Specifically, ang kanyang inspirasyon para sa tula ay yung mga manggagawang bukid sa wine country ng Eastern Washington. Pero sigurado na makaka-relate din tayo at ang iba pang mga manggagawa sa iba't ibang parte ng mundo. Pakinggan po natin.
I'd like to propose a toast to dreams and to the bold men and women that dare to dream them. To the wild-eyed visionaries that plant seeds in their hearts with hopes to one day see them come to pass. For prayers sweeter than papayas that rise from the deepest, darkest depths of our cellars, where my heart is pumping out prayers like mass. To the foresight that illuminates our foreshadows that whirl in the glass of our souls. To those robust farm workers clad in jeans, flannels, handkerchiefs, and hats. For all the mamas and papas that wear their skin like worn leather, who are wrinkled and red like raisins, and whose wrinkles hold stories like wine jugs, and whose woes are 10 miles deeper than any winemaker's pocketbook. This one's for them. For all the grandmas and grandpas that look like stucco, whose eyes look like ice wines with frost outlining their irises, for the crow's feet perched perfectly on their eyelids, and their white hair flowing like broken clouds passing through windmill slices. For century-old spines like gnarly vines and vineyards for lilac diamonds, to the godlike elders for our aging wines and their timeless guidance. This one's for the floral notes sung by the brown folks, for the flower vendor, the one that puts the rose in rosary, for a gorgeous culture that rose from dirt so openly, for arms that open like blossoms, for womb-like palms that deliver the grape from bondage and carry it from conception to fruition and beyond the goblet. For the seed that dreams itself larger than grapes and transcends wine, song, couplet, and sonnet. To cherry pickers like rebels with barreled chests waging war with their wages, who hurl their dreams like Molotov cocktails into our amber waves of grain, whose knuckles are gnarled and strained, for the work of a dreamer is stainless and honest. For the protagonist, the antithesis, the subplot, and most importantly, the conflict. You see, I know copper-skinned women and men that work for pennies. I know mothers that never feel beaten, machine-like mothers that clean hotels by day, sell Avon at night, and work the fields on the weekends. So this one's for freedom, for children with eyes like plums whose hair looks like dark chocolate waterfalls pouring out and catching the sun, for precious sunflowers with green thumbs that have never been embarrassed of their hard-working parents that pick pears and pluck asparagus. This one's for the families that get scattered for work all across the Americas. It's ugly. I know a girl that was held for ransom at birth just beneath the border by bad men known as coyotes, who you gotta pay to smuggle your dreams into this country. It's beyond ugly, it's heart-crushing. So this one's for the underbelly, for the juggling of children over rivers, for dodging dogs and militias, for sliding dreams past the law writers, passing laws higher than the barbed wire they're casting, the people they're pruning, and the hopes they're smashing. To the mighty migrant worker, may your hands and spine always nurture the vine. May the cups of all your tomorrows be filled with the fruits of your labor. And may the dreams that you dream of find freedom in the land of your neighbor. To you.
Patuloy po kayo nakikinig sa Radyo Migrante dito sa Toronto's Best Filipino Community Program, Vibe 105. Huwag kayong aalis mga kababayan. Makakasama natin si Shivangi, ang chairperson ng Canadian chapter ng International League of People Struggle. Mapapakinggan po natin yan after the break segment or Pinoy, Talakayan at Usapan. Kasama natin ngayon si Shivangi of the chairperson of International League of People Struggle in Canada. Welcome to Radyo Migrante, Shivangi. We're so happy to have you here with us today. If you can please greet our listeners and introduce yourself and ILPS.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Like she said, I'm Shivangi. I'm the chairperson of the International League of People Struggle. Salam and namaste. I'm very happy to be here. So thank you for having me. So the International League of People Struggle is a global organization with chapters in many countries. We are an anti-imperialist democratic formation. And our goal is to promote, support, and develop anti-imperialist and democratic struggles all over the world. And the way we do it is through political actions, through social actions, through advocacy, research, and campaigns. We have over 300 organizations all over the world that are a part of LPS. In Canada, for instance, we have over 20 organizations across Canada that are part of the LPS at the moment. And so we are a mass character, we're an organization with a mass character, and we are not subordinate to any government, any party, and all the organizations in the LPS are treated equally. And our goal is to facilitate cooperation and basically build unity among these organizations on the basis of anti-imperialism. Any organization that is committed to the work of anti-imperialist struggle and are serving the people struggle all over the world, both abroad and their home countries, the diaspora, the youth, the workers, the urban poor, the indigenous peoples, the women, youth, art, culture, free information, free flow of information actually in the service of the people. We support that and we facilitate that to build unity among ourselves so that we are stronger together.
Thank you for that. I think it's really perfect to have you here on the radio with us today to talk about the theme for this week's episode, which is World Social Justice Day. So this day is commemorated on February 20. What is ILP's role in advancing social justice in the world?
I think our main goal and the work that we do is to serve people all over the world and to support people's struggle. So what that would look like in concrete terms is supporting national and social liberation of the people in the world, like the people in the Philippines, like the people in Palestine at the moment, working people all over the world. So that in itself serves justice for the people. And that can look like social and economic justice. That can look like justice for women and youth and workers. And like I mentioned in the previous answer, it's supporting the people against their exploitation and plunder. So that can take different forms. But why we talk about imperialism as our common enemy is because all of these manifestations and symptoms of imperialism, they seem very separate from each other, but actually are quite connected. And the connecting point here is imperialism. Imperialism in its different structures and manifestations in politics, in business, in corporations, they all serve a particular class of people in the world. And so things that are happening in Palestine at the moment seem very far away from us, from Canada, but that's actually not true. It's the same companies that are exploiting people in Canada, are exploiting the working people in the Philippines and India and other places, are also profiting from the genocide in Palestine. And they serve a particular ruling class, a small number of companies, a small number of people. And that we identify and expose as imperialism. So combating that, forming unity against that, is a part of the social justice movement, a very strong aspect of it. So LPS plays a role in that. LPS becomes that body that facilitates, that coordinates. And what we do is we coordinate common lines of action. We create and develop definitive actions against this with the support of the people. And with the people, it's not even support. People are coming together and and combating their enemies in their countries, but also realizing that they're not different enemies, they're actually connected. And that is what I think ILPS plays a role to advance social justice in the world.
Shivangi, could you just share a little bit of some of the things that ILPS did in either 2023 or very recently in the past month?
Oh, yeah, I would love to. So our current campaign is against wars of aggression and corporations profiting from war. One of our big actions last year was organizing with other peace movement groups and organizations against the arms trade show that happens in Ottawa every year. It is Canada's largest arms trade show that happens in Ottawa, where these companies like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Elbit Systems, and different governments and people and companies that come together to basically an arms dealer convention, openly and shamelessly in our backyards, trading in weapons that are killing people and supporting reactionary regimes all over the world. And we said no, that we demanded a shutdown to CANSEC. We don't want this in our backyards. We want an end to arms trading. And that was one of the actions that we did. And in addition to that, we emphasized the power of political education. So we hold educationals exposing the imperialist nature of Canadian government and Canadian state, and how it's complicit in genocide, in suppression of people struggle all over the world, in counterinsurgencies, in brutalizing people all over the world, and how closely complicit the government is. So political education, many times all over the last year, connecting the struggles from Ireland to Haiti, to the Philippines, to Palestine, and also Canadian struggles. For example, on housing rights and the housing crisis that we're facing. So these are just some of the things that we have achieved in the last 1 year. And this year we will continue to do that, especially given the current political context. We will continue to work on bringing more and more people under the banner of anti-imperialism and finding these common action and campaigns together.
Yeah, I think I do remember we had Viviana Marina come here at Radyo Migrante to speak about her experiences attending the protest against CANSEC, I think last year. Yeah, it's a very important discussion. Connecting our conversation with one of the most pressing social justice issue in the Philippines, the current president, Marcos Jr., has started to push for CHACHA or charter change, also known as constitutional reform, to amend or revise the 1987 Philippine Constitution. Now, almost every president has attempted to get CHACHA approved, and in this current attempt, Marcos Jr. argues that through CHACHA, we can remove the barriers to a greater foreign investment in the Philippines, which the Philippine government claims will bolster investment, increase industries and jobs. Ultimately, they're claiming that it will lift Filipinos out of poverty. What do you think about this? Do you think it's true?
So the charter change and the constitutional reform to a very young constitution, which is only 36 years old or so, is a very brazen attempt to cover up what is really happening in the Philippines and in the Philippine context. Opening the doors to foreign investment has never worked in the past, and it is not going to work this time. So it is really a project of disinformation to the public. It is a project of opening the doors to foreign investments. And who does that actually serve is the question that we should be asking. And also the people of the Philippines should be asking that who does these changes actually serve and support? Does it support the people as the government is claiming, or does it support the rich and the powerful political dynasties that run Philippines at the moment? The different bureaucratic capitalist forces that run the Philippines, or is it actually serving the people? Now, we can look at it in many ways. One of that is, what are the real concerns of the people of the Philippines at the moment? And the people of the Philippines have kept telling us that they are telling us right now in many forms is there is extreme and severe poverty in the country. The Filipinos are poor, and even though the country is producing for other countries, there is unemployment, there is severe exploitation, there is housing crisis, there is a lack of resources for the people. So if these are the real conditions of the people, then why is the government not spending money into resolving and addressing these very real socioeconomic conditions of the people, but in fact spending billions of pesos in even bringing about this reform? So not only does this reform in itself cost money, the processes that goes into constitutional amendments, and in the Philippine context, it's a very prolonged process in that itself, but also the actual outcome of this does not help the people at all. So does it address the feudal nature of the exploitation of the people? It does not. And also what is alarming about these changes is that the Cha-Cha reforms brings in ownership of, it may bring it as it develops, it's in the process, ownership of educational institutions, of land ownership, and also of ownership and acquiring of mass media. Now, that in itself should raise alarm bells for all of us, that and the impacts of the ruling class owning mass media, we see the impacts all over the world, and it's only going to get worsen if this is actually allowed. So is it a change for the people? No. Should it be opposed? Definitely.
Mm-hmm. And it's so timely because our discussion is so timely because the constitution they're trying to change, the 1987 constitution came about after the dictator Marcos Sr. was ousted, and I think in a few days, in February 22 to 25, would be the commemoration of the EDSA People's Uprising, also known as EDSA People Power, which is the popular demonstration that ultimately ended the dictatorship of Marcos Sr. Can you just share with us why is it important for us to remember the EDSA People Power?
Yes, it is very timely to recognize and remember and celebrate that when people come together. And the reason why EDSA's uprising is so important is because it is really a very profound example of people in the Philippines coming together and organizing themselves to oust and overthrow the dictator Ferdinand Marcos Sr., and which, as you said, led to many progressive changes as well. And including the Constitution, with its very many weaknesses and limitations, it is still a constitution that the people fought for, which would not have happened without people's power. So the Filipino masses coming together, and also coming together in broad alliances, which is definitely something we should recognize. Bringing together the youth sector of the country, of the priests, the workers, the health workers, teachers, all of them coming together to organize themselves against the dictatorship is a very profound example of what people can achieve. And why it is particularly important now is that we are in dire need of that everywhere in the world. It is not just in the Philippines. People have to resist their oppressors and the people who are exploiting them. And this is an example of how that was done. The things that led to EDSA uprising included slogans and work and organizing against poverty at the time, inflation, against the exploitation that the urban poor were facing. So all of that still remains true. And the people, the resolution, the commitment the people showed then is very relevant at this time as well. And it really shows, it gives us an example that it is possible, because we can face because the enemy looks so big and so massive in front of our organizing sometimes with our efforts and our work. But uprisings like these, to recognize them, reminds us that it is not only possible, it is definitely achievable, and it is within our reach to oust dictatorships in the Philippines, but everywhere else as well.
Wonderfully, wonderfully said. I would want to end the interview there, but I do have one more question. With the situation globally, a lot of people are feeling a little bit like defeated or helpless. Do you have any messages for our listeners? Any advice for someone who wants to do something?
Mm-hmm. And it is a very timely question because I see a lot of people, especially young people, recognizing that what's happening in the world is not normal or acceptable, and they are refusing to accept it, and they want to get involved in ending that, the injustice in the world, but are still trying to figure out how. And one thing that I think all of Alpia's organizations, and I will always say, is first thing is join an organization, not just any organization. Look around, join an anti-imperialist organization that understands and recognizing that what are the root causes of the problem and not just the symptoms of the problem. And you will see many organizations well-intentioned organizations trying to address the many difficulties and challenges that working people in the world face. But if we recognize imperialism as our common enemy, we recognize that it is due to capitalism. It is due to forces that are very organized. And so we must be organized in opposition as well. And so my one piece of advice would definitely be joining an organization on the principles of anti-imperialism. And it is a part of that work after joining is educating yourself on the issues, on the root causes, and never to undermine the importance of political education. Arm yourself with the knowledge, the scientific knowledge of what's happening in the world, and learn from movements that are across the world. Learn from their successes and failures and what we can do and apply it to your local conditions wherever in the world you are. And finally, I would just say that all of this, it's all about commitment, discipline, but also it is about finding a collective life with people because education alone is very challenging. It seems like a huge mountain to achieve, and it can be quite intimidating, especially if you're just getting into organizing yourself. It can be quite intimidating, but everyone who started organizing starts at that point where we just start learning about what's going on in the world. But I have found that in my experience and other experience of my comrades as well, that collective life, it helps with all the steps that I've said. So organize yourself and keep learning. So yeah, that would be my
Powerful.
advice.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shivangi, for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I look forward to listening to the rest of the show.
Ayan, powerful ending for our Pinoy Tayo segment this week. Maraming salamat, Shivangi, ang chairperson ng Canadian chapter of the International League of People's Struggle. Ngayon naman pakinggan natin ang kantang Mag-alay sa Bayan by the band For the Love. Ito po ay track 3 sa kanilang album na Puso at Bayan. Please enjoy.
Damhin ng panahon, delubyo ay nagbabadya, at maraming nagugutom. Di ka ba nababahala? At nasaan ang pag-unlad? Kung meron man sinong pinalad, ikaw ba'y naghahanap ng lunas? Magsama tayo upang lumakas. At itong panahon, mag-alay sa bayan, kumilos ngayon. Baguhin ang mundo, ating yanigin, lalaya tayo. Baklasin ang mga harang sa ating paggusto. Puso ay alay sa bayan, tayo ay babangon. Alay sa bayan, alay sa bayan, alay sa
Damhin ng panahon, delubyo ay nagbabadya, at maraming nagugutom.
kami ay nababahala.
At nasaan ang pag-unlad? Kung meron man sinong pinalan, ikaw ba'y naghahanap ng lunas? Magsama tayo upang lumakas. At ito ang panahon, mag-alay sa bayan, kumilos ngayon. Baguhin ang mundo, ating iringin, lalaya tayo. Baklasin ang mga harang sa ating pagpusto. Puso ay alay sa bayan, tayo ay baklasin ang mga harang sa ating pagpusto. Puso ay alay sa bayan, tayo ay Unang panahon, dilubyo ay nagbabadya,
At maraming nagugutom, meron tayong magagawa.
Nakikinig kayo dito lamang sa Radyo Migrante ng Vibe 105.5 FM. At syempre, to stay updated sa happenings sa ating community, narito ang events at announcements. Sa February 29 ng 7:30 p.m., tara at sumama sa online concert facilitated by Malaya, Canada. Ang pamagat ng concert ay Konsyerto Anti-Chacha bilang parangal sa taunang EDSA People Power event. Tampok sa konsyerto na ito ang mga makata, stage actors at musikero mula sa Pilipinas at sa Canada. You don't wanna miss that, mga karadmig. Para naman sa March 3 ng 1 p.m., ito po ay para sa International Women's Day. Sumama sa isang online panel na pinamagatang Women in Defense of People's Struggle. Ito po ay facilitated by the International League of People's Struggle and International Women's Alliance in Canada. Ang speakers po ay sila Leila Khaled at Connie Ledesma, ang mga kababaihang nangunguna sa pakikibaka laban sa imperialismo at para sa tunay na paglaya. And lastly, kayo po ba ay isang migrante o immigrant care worker na nagtatrabaho sa ospital, long-term care home, or care receivers home? Ang MRCC, Migrants Research Center of Canada, ay naghahanap ng care workers to participate in a research study called the Direct Care Work in Canada, comparing occupational health and safety and labor outcomes for migrant care workers in Alberta and in Ontario project. Meron pong honorariums na ipoprovide at para sa mas karagdagang impormasyon, bisitahin lang po ang Facebook page ng MRCC o Migrant Research Center of Canada. Interesado ba kayo na maging bahagi ng Radyo Migrante? Halina't sumali sa Radyo Migrante Collective. There are open positions for new researchers, scriptwriters, co-hosts at iba pa. To learn more about our past and future episodes, just check us out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, at Spotify. Isulat nyo lang ang Radyo Migrante Toronto sa search bar. At dito nagtatapos ang isa na namang makabuluhang episode ng Radyo Migrante. Ipagpapatuloy natin ito next week kung saan magpag-uusapan natin tungkol sa EDSA People's Uprising noong 1986. Sa tulong ng mga kababayan natin na bumubuo ng Radyo Migrante, kay Shivangi, ang chairperson ng International League of People's Struggle ng Canada, kay Carl Ramirez para sa kanyang kantang Migranteng Pilipino, at higit sa lahat sa inyo pong mga nakikinig sa Radyo Migrante tuwing linggo mula 1:00 hanggang 2:00 ng hapon. Maraming salamat po. Hanggang sa susunod mga kababayan, muli, mabuhay po kayo at mabuhay ang bayang Pilipinas.
Upang ang buhay sugal at makipagsapalaran. Oh, mabuhay ka, migranteng Pilipino. Walang hindi magagawa, hangad ay pagunlad ng bansa. Mabuhay ka, migrante
at tinapuso